When our HOA president, Karen, slapped us with ridiculous fines for parking in our own driveway, she had no idea my dad was the banker reviewing their $1 million loan application.
Ever wonder what happens when a power-hungry HOA messes with the wrong family?
I stared at the bright pink paper tucked under my windshield wiper, my stomach dropping like a stone.
$150 fine, driveway violation. It read in big black letters. What?
This was our own driveway. My sister Jenny's graduation party had ended late last night. A few family members had stayed over, parking their cars in our driveway.
Nothing seemed wrong when I went to bed. Dad!
I yelled, rushing back inside our house.
You need to see this.
My father, Thomas Reynolds, looked up from his coffee, his forehead wrinkling with concern. As a senior loan officer at First National Bank, he dealt with numbers and rules all day.
But even he looked confused by the citation.
This makes no sense, he muttered, reading the fine print.
It says we violated Section 7.3 of the Pinecrest Gardens HOA rules by having more than 2 vehicles in our driveway. Mom joined us, still in her bathrobe.
That's ridiculous.
It's our property. Dad reached for his phone. I'm calling the HOA office right now.
I watched as his expression shifted from confusion to anger.
He put the phone on speaker so we could all hear.
Pinecrest Gardens HOA, this is Karen Matthews speaking, a clipped voice answered.
Hello, this is Thomas Reynolds from 428 Maple Drive. We received a parking violation this morning for having family cars in our driveway. There must be some mistake.
The laugh that came through the speaker made my skin crawl.
It wasn't friendly at all.
No mistake, Mr. Reynolds. Section 7.3 clearly states that residents may have no more than 2 vehicles parked in their driveway at any time.
You had 5. That's a $150 fine.
Dad's voice remained steady, but I could see his knuckles turning white around the phone.
Karen, these were overnight guests for my daughter's graduation. Surely there's some exception for special events.
Rules are rules, Mr. Reynolds. If everyone parked wherever they wanted, our neighborhood would look like a used car lot. The fine is due within 10 days, or it doubles. This seems excessive, Dad pressed.
Can I appeal this at the next board meeting? You're welcome to try, but I should warn you. I'm the president of the board. And I personally documented this violation. The evidence is quite clear.
As the call ended, I peeked through our front blinds and spotted a woman with perfectly styled blonde hair standing in her driveway across the street, staring directly at our house while talking on her phone. She wore expensive-looking workout clothes and had that look adults get when they think they've won something.
Dad!
I think that's her watching us right now, I whispered.
He joined me at the window.
Karen Matthews, he said quietly. She moved in 6 months ago and got elected HOA president last month.
I've never spoken to her before today.
That afternoon, I helped Dad check our HOA documents. The rule about driveway parking did exist, but it was buried on page 37 of a 50-page document we barely glanced at when moving in 3 years ago.
This is crazy, I said. Why would anyone care how many cars are in our driveway for one night?
Dad rubbed his temples.
Some people like having power over others. Let's pay the fine for now, but I want to learn more about these rules. Just as we finished dinner, our doorbell rang.
I opened it to find our neighbor, Mr. Jackson, looking upset. Sorry to bother you, Reynolds family, but I saw your citation today.
Wanted to warn you. Karen's just getting started.
He explained how his son's basketball hoop had been ordered removed last week after being up for 5 years without complaint. The Garcia family had been fined for having the wrong color flowers. The elderly Mrs. Wilson had received a warning about her bird feeder being 2 inches taller than regulations allowed. She's on a power trip, Mr. Jackson sighed. And none of us know how to stop her. After he left, I noticed Dad was unusually quiet. He sat at his laptop, scrolling through documents with intense focus.
What are you looking at? I asked.
Property maps, he answered.
And HOA financial records. They're public information for members. The next morning, another pink slip waited on our mailbox. This time, the violation read: improper lawn maintenance. Grass exceeds 3.5 inches in height. Fine, $75. I ran inside with the paper. Dad, she's targeting us now.
He took the citation without looking surprised.
I figured she might. I cut the grass 4 days ago.
Mom threw up her hands.
This is harassment. Should we call a lawyer?
Dad had a strange gleam in his eyes.
Not yet. I learned something interesting last night.
The HOA is planning a big renovation of the community center. They're seeking a $1.2 million loan to fund it.
So? I asked.
So, Karen and her board need that loan approved within the next month to start construction before winter.
He smiled in a way I rarely saw. And guess which bank they applied to? My eyes widened. First National? Your bank? He nodded. And guess who's been assigned to review their application?
A slow smile spread across my face as I realized what this meant. Sometimes, Dad said softly, the universe has a funny way of balancing things out. As I looked back out the window, I caught Karen walking by our house with a measuring tape and a camera, bending down to check our grass height. She had no idea who she was truly messing with. This is getting out of hand, Mom said, spreading the 5 violation notices across our kitchen table. In just 1 week since the driveway incident, we've been cited for grass height, a garden gnome not on the approved decoration list, wind chimes that were excessively noisy, a hose not properly stored, and a mailbox that was apparently one shade darker than the approved black.
Total fines, $425. Dad hadn't paid any of them yet.
Instead, he'd been making phone calls every evening from his home office, speaking in his professional banker voice.
The doorbell rang, making us all jump.
These days, unexpected visitors usually meant bad news. I opened the door to find Mrs. Smith from 3 houses down, clutching a pink citation of her own. Her eyes were red from crying.
Is your father home? She asked, her voice shaking. I don't know what to do anymore.
5 minutes later, our living room filled with neighbors I'd barely spoken to before.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The Garcias. The Jacksons.
Elderly Mrs. Wilson with her cane. Even the typically private Dr. Patel from the corner house. Each had their own horror story about Karen Matthews and her reign of terror. She fined me for having my medical equipment delivery box on my porch for 4 hours.
Dr. Patel explained. I was in surgery and couldn't bring it in immediately.
Mrs. Wilson dabbed at her eyes. I've lived here for 32 years. Now she says my bird feeders are unsightly and attract vermin. Those birds are my only company some days.
Dad listened to everyone carefully, taking notes.
When they finished, he cleared his throat. I've been investigating, he said, turning his laptop to show us all. Last year, before Karen moved here, our HOA collected about $5,000 in fines. He clicked to another screen. In just 2 months under her leadership, they've already collected over $122,000.
Gasps filled the room.
But that's not all, Dad continued.
The HOA bylaws state that all fine money must be used for community improvements. But according to their financial statements, there's no record of these recent fines in the official accounts. What does that mean? Mrs. Garcia asked.
It means, Dad replied slowly, the money might be going somewhere else. And right when they're applying for $1 million loan.
That's a very serious problem. The room went silent as everyone processed this information. What can we do? Mr. Jackson finally asked. Dad smiled. Karen doesn't know it yet, but as part of my bank's loan review process, I've requested a complete audit of all HOA finances for the past year. It's standard procedure for loans of this size. My heart swelled with pride. My dad wasn't fighting back with anger. He wasn't breaking rules himself. He was using his knowledge and position, completely properly, to make sure everything was above board. Mrs. Smith looked worried. Won't she know it's you behind this?
Banking regulations require confidentiality, Dad explained.
She'll know the bank is investigating, but not that I'm personally handling it.
Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from my friend Zach.
OMG. Did you see what Karen posted on the neighborhood Facebook page? I quickly pulled it up and showed everyone.
Karen had posted a long rant about certain families who were bringing down property values with their blatant disregard for community standards. While she didn't name us directly, everyone knew who she meant. She's trying to turn the neighborhood against us, Mom said, looking stressed.
Dad remained calm. This actually helps us.
She's creating a public record of her actions. That afternoon, while walking our dog Max, I noticed something odd.
Karen's best friend Diane had a massive RV parked in her side yard.
According to the same rules we'd been studying, recreational vehicles were explicitly prohibited from being stored on properties. I snapped a quick photo and showed Dad when I got home.
Interesting, he said. Let's start documenting everything.
Over dinner, Dad explained his plan.
The HOA board meeting is next Tuesday. I think we should all attend. Won't Karen just shut us down? I asked. She can try. But HOA bylaws require that members be allowed to speak. And we won't be alone. Dad was right.
When Tuesday came, the community center meeting room was packed like never before. Karen looked shocked as she called the meeting to order, her usual 4 empty rows of chairs now filled with attentive faces. When she reached the agenda item about the community center renovation, she tried to speed through it.
The loan application is proceeding as expected, she said briskly. Moving on to. Excuse me. Dad stood up.
As a community member, I'd like more details about this loan.
Karen's smile tightened.
The details are confidential, Mr. Reynolds. Actually, Dad replied, as this is a loan using our collective property as collateral, members have the right to full disclosure.
It's in the bylaws. Article 4, Section 2. The room went completely silent. Karen's face flushed red. Fine, she snapped. We're borrowing $1.2 million from First National Bank for comprehensive upgrades to the facility. The application is under review. And what's the status of that review? Dad asked innocently. Karen's eye twitched. There have been some unexpected requests for additional documentation. Like what? Someone called out. Financial records, she admitted reluctantly. It's just red tape. Nothing concerning. Dad raised his hand again. While we're discussing finances, I'd like to ask about fine collection. He clicked his laptop.
According to the quarterly statement, only $3,200 in fines was reported. But many of us have paid significantly more than that combined. Karen's eyes darted to Diane, who was frantically shaking her head. Those recent fines haven't been processed yet, Karen stammered.
An elderly man in the back stood up.
I paid my fine 8 weeks ago.
You cashed my check the next day.
Suddenly, everyone was talking at once.
Comparing notes.
Fines they paid that weren't reflected in the official records. Karen banged her gavel repeatedly. This meeting is adjourned, she shouted over the chaos.
As people filed out, buzzing with conversation, Karen cornered Dad in the hallway.
I stayed close enough to hear. I don't know what game you're playing, Reynolds, she hissed, but you're making a powerful enemy.
Dad looked her straight in the eyes. I'm not playing games, Karen.
I'm simply ensuring that our community follows its own rules.
All of them. Walking home under the streetlights, our neighbors joined us like a parade. What happens next? Mrs. Wilson asked. Dad looked thoughtful. The bank's audit results should come back within 2 weeks. If there are discrepancies. He didn't need to finish the sentence. We all understood what it meant. That night, I couldn't sleep.
Around midnight, I heard a car door slam and peeked through my blinds.
A figure was moving around our front yard with a flashlight.
Suddenly, our motion sensor lights flipped on,
illuminating Karen. holding something in her hands.
She jumped, startled by the light, then hurried back to her car and drove away. The next morning, we discovered all our garden plants had been uprooted and scattered across the lawn. Pinned to our door was another citation.
Landscaping debris. Fine, $200.
But Karen had made a critical mistake.
Our doorbell camera had captured things.